Hey there, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Charlotte with Colorful Teaching for You, and today we're going to look at how to handle misbehavior in the classroom. So misbehavior could take place because a child is bored, they don't understand a concept, or they just might not be ready for what we are teaching them at this moment. Whatever the reason is, we've got to figure out what the problem is, and we've got to figure out how to handle it. And the reason we talk about that is because sometimes we as teachers want to or will nag kids, and or we just hope that it's going to get better. And when we do that and we don't handle the situation right away, it does start to get worse over time. So between last week's article where we talked about nonverbal communication and this week's article where we're looking at perhaps making some other changes, you should have enough in your tool belt to be able to handle misbehavior in the classroom. So let's get started today. The first step is to have a chat. So this is fairly simple. What you're going to be doing is actually bringing your child over to you, or you go to the child, and we talk about what is causing this behavior. Why is it causing this behavior? Now, a child may not know the answer to it, and you might give them some time to reflect, or they might not be ready to talk to you right away. And if they're not ready, that's okay, because perhaps a trust needs to be built and that takes time. So while we're building that trust, we could use a form of self-reflection that's anonymous. So that means the whole class does it and they just hand in a paper, and we try to figure out, what's going on based on that. Over time though, once that trust is built, or once it's gradually starting to be built, we can start to have them go from anonymous to writing their names. And then we can go to having a one-on-one actual conversation with the child. So we could take different steps to have that chat to figure out what's going on and how we can help them. That's step number one. Step number two is to adapt a bit. So here we're going to look at what a child is capable of and what they're working on. And then based on that, we're going to adapt the curriculum to meet their needs. So now, an adaptation might look like maybe they need one-on-one support or small group intervention, or they might just need to do fewer questions rather than all of the work, and that's fine as well. Now note that I said adaptation and not modification. There's a big difference between the two, and modification is going to be a topic for an entirely different day. But keep in mind the concept of adaptation, okay? Step number three is love the positive. So here we are going to look at what our child is doing. So if your child stays on task and they are following expectations, we're going to praise that behavior. But the way to do that is to actually talk about the behavior. So we want to actually have that conversation in advance. What does positive behavior look like? Let's agree upon these expectations, and then let's review it. So you want to review this with your children at the beginning of the school year every single day. Then you can pull it back and start doing it every few days to every week. I do recommend doing it every week because children start to forget, right? You can start to do it monthly, much later on in the year, but when you are starting out at the beginning of the year or after a long break, like the winter break, for example, you want to be able to review it quite frequently so that they remember what it's like when they come back to class. So what I like to do is I like to have them get up and we don't just talk about what it's like, but we actually discuss it and we act on it, right? We do it. So get up and let's look at what it's like to line up in, or to stand in a line. How do our bodies look? How do our mouths, how do our minds, how do our hands, what do they look like? Right? So all of that is something we talk about. When we are focused and we're working, what do our bodies look like in that moment? What do other people's bodies look like? What happens with our mouths? If we're in a group environment, how do we behave in a group environment? If we're walking down the hall, how do we walk down the hall? There's so many different little expectations that we need them to be working on, and that's something that you want to continue to practice with them. Okay, so that's love the positive. As soon as you talk about it, then we praise it, right? The next one is reinforce the behavior. So again, we are taking that same concept and We're looking at everything we've talked about before. We're looking at last week's article as well, the all of the nonverbal communications, all of that. We're taking that and we're looking at how do we reinforce this behavior over and over. And the way to do it is to, like I said before, praise the behavior. So if a child is doing something positive, what I like to do is I like to say, well done, let's say Jacob, on writing this assignment. I love how well you wrote that, the hook of this paragraph. I love the detail, the care that you took with this. I praise the behavior. Notice how my voice raised because I'm now excited. I love this work, right? And I might praise 2 or 3 people, and if I see an unexpected behavior happening, I'll go to that child and I might redirect them quietly, but automatically now I've moved again away from that behavior and I've gone back to somebody else and I say, wow, look how well you are sitting in your chair. Your hands are on your lap. You are ready to learn. I love this. Thank you so much, and you're excited, you're enthusiastic is the same as excited. I'm excited right now too, just thinking about it. But when children see that we're excited and we're focused on the positive behavior and we give very little focus to the not so great negative behavior, they automatically realize that this is how they need to get your attention. If you were to look at a child who's misbehaving and you said to that child, you know what, you need to work on this, you need to do this, you need to do that, and the kids are working, don't get that attention, they're going to realize if they want attention from you, they need to do unexpected things. They need to perhaps not do work, perhaps start laughing out loud in class. Then we have another issue altogether on our hands. So very subtly have that your child who's doing something that's not so great, have them focus on their task, and then praise the people who are on task and do it nice and loud and be proud, right? So those are our 4 different methods. The first one is have a chat. The second one is to adapt a bit. The third is to love the positive, and the fourth one is to reinforce the behavior. We also looked at the reasons behind why we are using each of those 4 steps and why we want to be able to handle misbehavior right away instead of waiting for a while. So I hope this helps. I hope between this article and last week's article you have enough in your tool belt to be able to manage your class, and we will continue again on this journey next week, same place, same time. In the meantime, please remember to create, experience, and teach from the heart. Take care, my friends. Bye.